Research shows if you're under eating, especially eating like under 1,800 calories a day while breastfeeding, we can start to see our milk supply dip. You can see slower healing from birth. So it may take you longer to heal from a C-section or a vaginal birth. Low energy, mood swings, postpartum depression, brain fog. Those are the most common things. And then if you're not fueling effectively, so if you're not eating enough protein, if you're not eating enough fiber, if your blood sugar's all over the place, a lot of moms will struggle with their weight.
Brooke, I am so excited to have you here on the Healthy Skin Show. You are the first guest to ever really talk about the postpartum period, which is so important because I feel like this is a place where a lot of things change, a lot of things can go awry. It can create some like really new and sometimes not so great habits that really impact a woman's energy and such. And so I know that you have a lot of experience with this area. I mean, you're a mom. Mm-hmm. I can't speak to this personally, except for being an aunt. That's the closest I get. And obviously I've helped clients. But what has been your experience with postpartum, and what do you think is one of the biggest issues that you see in women who are coming through this period where they really what's one of the biggest problems or challenges that you see that they faced that they might not even realize just yet that they're even struggling with?
Yeah, I think the biggest overlooked thing that moms are struggling with postpartum is called postpartum depletion. And it's basically where your body goes through this process of pregnancy, birth, breastfeeding. And it's kind of like running a marathon, a long marathon. And so your body is so depleted after birth. A lot of times there's a lot of blood loss. And when we're breastfeeding, our body is pulling so much energy to produce milk and heal from birth. You're going through this physical trauma, whether it's a C-section or a vaginal birth. And so your body is in this process of healing. Your hormones drastically shift. So the moment you give birth and you push the placenta out, now your estrogen and progesterone drastically changes. So you're going through hormonal shifts. You're going through physical trauma of healing from birth, and you're most likely to be depleted in most vitamins and minerals during this time. And so most moms have no idea that this depletion is actually a huge aspect of low energy, mood swings, even problems with milk supply and brain fog and just feeling like themselves mentally and physically. And I think part of the problem is, society, doctors, sometimes are just like, oh yeah, it's normal. Like you just had a baby, you're sleep deprived. Like, of course you don't feel good physically, and they're kind of brushed off by a lot of times, medical team or friends or family. They're just kind of brushed off like, oh, it's fine. It'll get back to normal. But what most moms don't realize is postpartum depletion can actually last up to a decade if you don't replenish your body properly. And yes. And so many moms that have kids end up getting pregnant more than once. And so if you are not properly replenishing and then you just keep getting pregnant over and over, like your body can just get more and more depleted. And so replenishing in this first year postpartum is so crucial to help regulate your hormones, your energy, your mood, heal from birth, and just kind of feel like yourself again, mentally and physically.
And I want to actually ask you this because when you said postpartum depletion, which is a phrase I've never heard.
Yeah.
I thought where you were going was postpartum depression, right? Because they sound really, but is it possible that some of this depletion, right? The depletion of our nutrient stores could play into some of that?
There's a huge link to your risk of postpartum depression and nutrient depletion. So if you are deficient, if you're like very deficient in iron, in vitamin D, in omega-3s, magnesium, B vitamins, if you're deficient in any of those, your risk of postpartum depression goes up and your symptoms can go up if you have postpartum depression. Now, it's not to say that if you have a deficiency, it causes it, but it increases the risk and it increases the symptoms. And so how I like to look at postpartum depression is let's come at it from different angles. Sometimes some moms need to be on medication for a period of time. Some moms need therapy on top of that. But if we are just doing those two things and we are not addressing depletion and you are super deficient in vitamin D or omega-3s, you may not get all of the benefits from the medication and the therapy. And so I always look at it from like this whole body approach. How can we come at it? And nutrition can be part of the plan. Not to say that nutrition alone will heal postpartum depression, because some moms need more. But for some moms, that's all they need, is they're actually depressed and exhausted because they're so depleted. Their body is so depleted. And, you know, especially if they get their labs done and we see their iron levels and we see their vitamin D levels, it's like, okay, well, no wonder you feel so ill and sad. And like things are hard because your body is so depleted right now. It just makes sense. And then once we start increasing, you know, let's say the iron and the omegas and the vitamin D, it's like all of a sudden they start noticing that their mood is drastically improved.
This episode is brought to you by my skincare line, DermaQuell. The beauty of these skincare products are that they are especially crafted for those struggling with chronic skin rash issues based on my research and clinical experience from my private practice. They focus on organic ingredients that are clean, like zinc, aloe, and hemp oil, that support and calm rashed, dry, angry skin. There's no unnecessary chemicals or additives that can further dry out your skin or mess with your hormones. And I'm so excited for you to add these creams into your routine. Check them out at quellshop.com and use the coupon code GET15OFF to get 15% off your first order. I'll put a link in the description below. And now let's jump back to the video.
Yeah, I had a client actually, I think it was earlier this week. I don't remember. Sometimes the weeks merge and blend. But she was asking me, because she gave birth, I guess, about 6 weeks ago. And she's like, well, is there like a supplement or something that I can take to help me like balance my hormones? And I was like, I think part of this is you have to let your body kind of do its thing and create that rhythm. But can you speak to that to any mom who's like, isn't there just something that I can take?
Yeah, I mean, I actually recommend that all moms stay on a prenatal vitamin, a really high quality one, like throughout the duration of breastfeeding, at least the first year postpartum. And if you're considering getting pregnant again, being on a high quality prenatal vitamin. And so that's one thing. But I also think that all moms, especially if you're postpartum, you need to be on vitamin D, you need to be on omega-3s. And those are kind of like a non-negotiable of supplements. So if you're on those at least, that's going to really help. But you know, some other things that we can do is actually fueling our body by trying to get in like the fruits and veggies that are higher in a lot of the vitamins, minerals that we need. Eating enough protein is like so crucial during this time to help your body heal and rebuild. And so there's not this like one magic food or supplement, but they do help. So, yeah. And again, if a mom is super low in vitamin D, she just may need to supplement with 5,000 or, 6,000 IUs. And then all of a sudden we're like seeing a drastic improvement. So it does kind of vary based on your specific lab values, where you're depleted, and kind of what your diet looks like too.
Is it normal? Because you've mentioned just now labs, and I typically find that doctors are a little more like concerned about the baby postpartum than they are the mom.
Yep, that's a big problem.
Is it normal for women postpartum to get labs drawn, or is this something that you're going to kind of have to push your doctor for if you're feeling like, and do you have to be feeling off in order to even justify getting the labs run, or do you feel like it's a reasonable request? And at what point, like at 6 weeks, at 8 weeks, 12 weeks?
I mean, I think if you're getting just a regular annual physical and it just happens to be 3 to 6 months postpartum, I think that's a great time to just get those labs done. So I just had a physical, I want to say I was 3 to 6 months postpartum. And I just asked her, I was like, can we run my cholesterol? Can we run a full vitamin B panel? Can we run full iron panel, cholesterol, thyroid, all the things? So I think the 3 to 6 month mark, or even 3 to 9 month mark, is a great time to do it, because your body should be somewhat healed by that point. Whereas if you get your labs drawn in the first 6 weeks, you might see things. But the interesting thing is iron deficiency, really common that first year postpartum. But if we draw labs only at 6 weeks postpartum, you may be exhausted. Your baby's sleeping through the night at 9 months and you're like, what the heck? I'm getting longer sleep sleep stretches, but I don't feel any better, I'm still exhausted, then I'm always like, okay, we need to go get your iron checked again. So I think that sweet spot is the 3 to 6 month mark ideally, but usually you have to push yourself. But you can ask your primary care doctor or your OB, whoever you're seeing during that time. Not to say you can't, you can do it at 6 weeks, but I think it's better to just let your body heal a little bit before pushing for those labs and just being on those vitamins.
And you've mentioned a lot about like repleting and nourishing, which I love. So it sounds to me, and this has been my experience, but it sounds to me like there's a trend or a theme here that there could be the risk that maybe mom is not eating enough. Mm-hmm. Would you say that's kind of like accurate?
Yeah. And it's funny because when I started working specifically with postpartum moms full time, I assumed that most moms were intentionally under eating. Like, oh, I'm trying to get my body back. I'm trying to lose the baby weight. So I'm just going to eat a low calorie diet. What I started finding was that actually most moms were under eating unintentionally. They were so exhausted. They were so overwhelmed, overstimulated with breastfeeding and taking care of a new baby, especially when they were going from like 1 to 2 kids or 2 to 3 kids or 3 or more kids. It was like they were just so overwhelmed, and feeding themselves felt like another chore. It felt like something else on the to-do list. And so a lot of moms were skipping meals, not necessarily thinking like, oh, I'm going to lose the baby weight, but just they would find themselves like at 2 p.m. being like, I haven't really eaten a meal today. And it wasn't necessarily intentional. Yeah. And so I find that I would say probably 90% of the clients I work with are in that camp. They're unintentionally, not fueling themselves. And I would say almost every mom I work with, when we start tracking their fiber and protein needs, they are under where they need to be. And that's one of the biggest shifts that I have moms do in my program is increase protein and increase fiber, because it just makes such a drastic difference.
Now, do you think that a woman in a postpartum period needs to be consuming the same amount of protein that they were eating pre-pregnancy, or
higher?
Do you need more? Higher.
Yeah. So whenever your body goes through something physical like birth, especially if you had a C-section, I mean, that's a major surgery. Your body needs extra protein to heal from that. And then when your body is producing milk, it needs extra calories and protein for that as well. So your nutrient needs are highest postpartum, so higher than pregnancy.
Wow, really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, for vitamins, minerals, protein. Yep. I mean, once you get to that like year or two, and if you're done breastfeeding, then it kind of normalizes and you can kind of shift back. But yeah, especially that first year postpartum.
And if you're not eating enough, so what are some of the things to keep in mind that the under eating could, or maybe it's not it could be under eating, but what if you're also eating things like you said, like maybe you're making the kids food and it's not food that you would feed yourself. Listen, there's no judgment. I really get it at this point in my life. Now that I have 2 nieces and I've seen what friends and my sister has gone through with kids, you can't always control what they want to eat as much as you have good intentions. So you might end up like eating chicken nuggets and things of that nature that you probably don't necessarily want to eat normally. But not eating in an ideal way for you in the stage of life that you're at. How can that impact you from, say, like a hormonal perspective or emotional perspective, or even from a lactation perspective? I mean, you just shared just from calories alone, you need more calories.
Yeah. I mean, research shows if you're under eating, especially eating like under 1,800 calories a day while breastfeeding, we can start to see our milk supply dip. So that's concerning. If you are under eating, you can see slower healing from birth. So it may take you longer to heal from a C-section or a vaginal birth. Low energy, mood swings, postpartum depression, brain fog. Those are the most common things. And then if you're not fueling effectively, so if you're not eating enough protein, if you're not eating enough fiber, if your blood sugar's all over the place, a lot of moms will struggle with their weight. And some of the most common things is like when we're breastfeeding, you feel ravenous. I mean, I experienced that too. It's like you're so hungry when you're breastfeeding. And if you're just eating chips or cookies or like whatever you see first, and you're not actually trying to build a balanced plate and, eat fruits and vegetables and meats and like a wide variety of healthy, nutrient dense foods, you're going to see that these problems get worse over time. And so even when your baby starts sleeping through the night, you might be like, man, I'm eating. But if you're not eating enough vitamins, minerals, enough protein, you're going to start to, still experience a lot of these symptoms.
Yeah. And what about the moms that may lean more like plant-based? Are there more challenges for them versus somebody who's eating maybe a more omnivore type diet?
It is harder. I will say, I'm a meat eater. I love meat. I love eggs. I love fish. I love all those things. And it is possible to do this on a vegan diet, on a vegetarian diet, but it takes a lot more planning, and you're likely going to need more supplements, especially like the B vitamin supplements. But if you're open to taking like omega-3s and some good fish oil supplements, that can obviously help. And if you're getting a wide variety of fruits and veggies, you can build some complete proteins together, but it is harder. It's harder to get to those high protein goals if you're not eating any meat. So it's not impossible, but.
What do you think is a good range, just generally speaking, for protein? I feel like, when you're trying to heal from skin issues, I usually try to get clients up to about 100 grams of protein a day, for that, because you're trying to rebuild tissue, and you need it for neurotransmitters and all the different things. My goodness, liver detox, et cetera, et cetera. Do you feel like, is that somewhere in the ballpark? I feel like clients even like sometimes are like, that feels like a lot. And I'm like, it's really not. We just have to be strategic about it.
Yeah. I mean, some of my moms are trying to aim for like 150 grams.
Wow.
That's pretty, that I would say that's on the higher end. And that would be more somebody who just gave birth, had a C-section, exclusively breastfeeding. It really depends on your weight too. So, if you ended your pregnancy at 120 pounds, that's going to be different than somebody who ended their pregnancy at 200 pounds, right? So it does vary. But I would say a majority of my moms are eating somewhere between 100 and 150. Mm-hmm.
So my question to you is, does this get any easier? Like if you did the first time mom thing and now you're having baby number 2, baby number 3, baby number 4.
Yeah.
Does this get easier in trying to make sure that you're feeding yourself, or like, what do you see for these women?
I think, there's some aspects of motherhood that become harder the more kids you have. And I think, when I had my first baby, my first experience was traumatic. My son was born early. He had open heart surgery. He has Down syndrome. We were spending time in the NICU, the PICU, and pumping full time. Like it was a lot to manage. And so for me, feeding myself in that time was really difficult because I just felt like I was putting so much attention on him. When I had my second son, then it became challenging in that now you have 2 kids that you're taking care of. And if your spouse is not there, or you're solo parenting, or you're a single parent, you're trying to control and help and manage multiple kids at once. And so it just it becomes different challenges. I will say I felt way more prepared the second postpartum experience, and my husband loves to cook. And so that really helps. Like he was like, I will take over cooking and grocery shopping and doing a lot of these things because I know that you're breastfeeding and I can't do that, And so I think outsourcing, asking for help, people can bring meals and drop off meals if people are asking how they can help you. But again, now that we have 3 kids, it's like, it is hard because you feel like you're constantly like, zone defense, like you're not man to man anymore. And so I think once you hit that 3 kids, it's just like you learn to live with more chaos too. Like I've just had to let certain things go. And sometimes my 2-year-old's having a tantrum and I'm like, honey, you need to hold on because mommy needs to eat. Like that was the conversation this morning. My son was like, I want more water. I want more milk. And I was like, you need to be patient because mommy needs to eat before I drop you guys off. Like mommy needs to eat.
Gosh.
And so, I think setting those boundaries is tough too. Once you have kids that can talk, is I've really had to do that this year, is telling my kids like, hey, I will help you in 1 minute, but mommy needs to eat. And so I really make sure that they see me nourishing my body, and I model that to them like, hey, my needs are important too, because if mommy wants to show up and take care of you, she needs to eat. She needs to go to the bathroom. She needs to shower. She needs to get her coffee in,
That is very true. It is important to model this behavior from a young age and create boundaries, and it might not stick right away, but eventually I feel like that's the difference between kids and pets. Kids start to get it after a certain point. Pets sometimes not so much.
Yeah.
But I wanted to kind of ask you too, like, obviously if you are breastfeeding, that's great. Like, we know we need extra calories. There are women who struggle with breastfeeding, right? And that's fine. Listen, everyone's journey, or maybe it's just not something you want to do. It is what it is. Everybody's journey is totally and completely unique and different, and there's nothing wrong with that. Does it matter if you're, say, not able to, you don't have an ample breast milk supply, or you are, for whatever reason, maybe you're on certain medications or something like that, you're not able to breastfeed? Does the repletion piece of this still matter?
Yeah, still that first, especially 6 months postpartum, your body's still healing from birth. Your body still is going through all the hormone shifts from pregnancy to postpartum. So yes, absolutely. Yes. And if somebody is wanting to breastfeed and they are struggling, my biggest piece of advice is you need to ask for help, and we need to identify the root cause issue. Do you actually have low milk supply? Because a lot of moms perceive they have low milk supply, and they think they're supposed to have this massive like freezer stash that they see on Instagram. And that's not true. You don't need to have a freezer stash to make enough milk for your baby. Some moms really do struggle making enough milk, but I would say a lot of moms come to me and they're like, yeah, I want to make more milk and I'm not making enough milk. And then I'm looking at their baby's weight and like their number of wet diapers. And I'm like, you're doing amazing. Like, you're actually doing great. Like, we just need to keep up what you're doing. And we need to identify like, what is that root cause issue? So if you have low milk supply, it's like, is it your pump parts are worn out? Is it you're using the wrong size pump parts? Is it you're skipping feeds? Are you not noticing your baby's cues early enough? Or do we need to adjust our feeding schedule? Does your baby have a tongue tie? Like, there's so many reasons. And so my biggest thing with breastfeeding is I just want moms to reach whatever goal they set. So if you decide like, I don't want to breastfeed. Okay. If you decide I want to do it for 2 months, awesome. Like, let's get you to that 2 months. If you decide you want to do it 2 years, awesome. Let's go. Like, let's do that. And so my biggest thing is I just want moms to reach whatever goal they want. And I don't want breastfeeding to end like not on their terms. That's my biggest mission, is I just want to help moms reach whatever goal they set. And for each baby, it may be different. Some moms I work with, their first goal for their first baby is 6 months. And then the next baby, they're like, you know what? I'm going to aim for a year this time. And it's totally fine to have different goals for different babies. This is my last baby. We are donezo. And so I am like, I'm not in a rush to wean her. I'm like, we'll see how long she wants to go. I breastfed both my other boys, about 2 years. And so, if she wants to go 2.5, it's my last baby. I'm going to let her. Whereas my 2-year-old, I was like, I weaned him after giving birth to her. So I was breastfeeding while pregnant.
Oh,
that was
wow.
a whole, yeah. And then I breastfed both of them together for like a week. And then I was like, honey, I'm done. I can't keep tandem breastfeeding, but that's possible. You can do it. It's just, for me, I was so touched out. I was like, I can't, I'm done.
Oh my goodness. Wow. So for moms listening to this who are, or even like, this could be a grandparent listening to this or a friend listening to this and going like, I know somebody who needs help in this department. Maybe we have somebody listening to this who's like, I am, this is coming, or I'm in it and I am struggling. What are some things that they could start to do? 1 or 2, maybe 3 simple, easy next steps that they could start to actually, I don't know if you're not going to magically feel better overnight. That's just not happening. But that could be really helpful for them to try?
Yeah. So one is taking the vitamins, taking your supplements, like being super consistent. I keep mine right by my toothbrush. That way, every night when I brush my teeth, I take all my vitamins. And I have a large supply. Like I take prenatals, I take DHA, I take vitamin D, I take turmeric and ginger, I take probiotics. And so, I have kind of a long list. Yours doesn't have to be that long, but definitely taking some vitamins every day consistently is one. The other thing is I would start with breakfast. If you can just get breakfast, high protein, get some fiber in there, some healthy fats. Eggs are my favorite food. I mean, for pregnancy and postpartum, especially, it has the iron, it has protein, and, we don't want to just do one egg. We need to do like 3 eggs postpartum. But it has choline, so eggs are my go-to. Now, if you hate eggs or you're allergic, we can definitely do other things. But if you can start off your breakfast and get that really consistent where you're eating at the same time of day and you feel really satisfied for 3-4 hours after, that is a great place to start, because once breakfast is really balanced and consistent, the rest of your day goes so much better. Whereas I work with so many moms where they're skipping breakfast or they're just going to Starbucks and they're getting like a high sugary drink, and then their blood sugar is like sky high and then it crashes. It just sets you up to have a really tough day. So those 2 nutritional things. But then I also want to encourage walking. So that's one of the best things you can do with a baby, and you can wear them in a carrier. You can push them in a stroller, but getting outside, getting the vitamin D, the fresh air, it's a really gentle way to bring movement back in. And if we can walk after meals, it helps regulate your blood sugar. And walking is one of those things that it's free, we don't have to pay money for it. And there might be times where it's like rainy or snowing. And in those cases, like, can you just go to Target or Costco and like just go walk around? But getting steps in any way that you can is that third piece. And I think if you start with those 3 things, you will feel so much better. And that is the top place to start.
Yeah, I think that, and also what you've mentioned is all really tied to blood sugar balance in a sense, because if you don't regulate blood sugar, and this is not just for postpartum. I mean, this is like for life.
Everybody. Yep.
Yeah. We start to have more and more problems across the board, and it does not correct itself. Nope. That's the other problem. I mean, I'm learning that now. Not that I had blood sugar issues, but like it's harder the older you get. Like in my 40s now, it's like I really gotta fight for it now. Yep. So it's like a whole different world. So it does not get easier. It's not something that just fixes itself. And also, I think, like you were saying, you model healthy behaviors, you create healthy habits, right? Because then the kids know, oh, after dinner, we go out for a walk. After this, we go out for a walk. It's a habit you instituted, and you can continue, and it helps the kids really also do those things, right? And get away from the screens and whatnot. So you have a ton of really amazing information for postpartum moms. I know you teach a masterclass for women. Can you talk about like who this masterclass is for? What will you kind of get out of it? What will you learn? Because I think for people who are listening to this, whether, again, I have like a lot of grandparents that listen to the show, and they've got, their daughter who's, going to give birth or is a new mom, and parents listening. I want to try to connect them with the next step if that's right for you. So who is this for, and what are they going to get out of it if they are really ready to get some help? Because I think getting help, I would say you're number 4. If I could throw it at number 4, is asking for help and trying to get some clear direction and clear guidelines, because now you've got that 6-month window post-birth that is really crucial, where this is important. So yeah.
Yeah, I think so. The people who are going to benefit most from my free masterclass is going to be women who are either pregnant in that first few years postpartum or breastfeeding. And they're going to get the most out of it, especially, if you're pregnant. It's a great time because then you can prepare. You can actually like implement some of these things that I teach in class during pregnancy. And once you do that during pregnancy, it's so much easier to do it when you're postpartum. And then the earlier you can implement some of these things postpartum, just the easier your postpartum experience will be. So I always recommend, and I have some moms that say like, oh, I'm 3 years postpartum. Is it too late? And I'm like, no, it's not too late. If you are experiencing energy crashes, mood swings, brain fog, struggles with your weight, and you've had a baby in the last like 3, 4, 5 years, still come, and I had a mom just join actually my program. I think she has like a 6-year-old is her youngest.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, I have all of these symptoms. And then she's like, I'm seeing all these results. And so, but I would say, a majority of our content inside the class is talking to moms who are in the first few years postpartum or breastfeeding. And really in the class, we talk a lot about the depletion. We talk about the 3 things nutritionally that we need to focus on and why they're so important. And so, and then I have freebies at the end of class. So I give you like my 7 meals under 7 minutes. I give out my no prep nutrition guide. So it's like my favorite products that you can just have on hand that you can just grab and go or throw in the air fryer, something that's really doable for busy moms who are struggling to feed themselves. That no prep nutrition guide, people are like raving about it. I love it so much.
You mean because the new mom's not going to be making a gourmet 7-course meal?
Yes. Yes.
For dinner. No, that's not happening. Not happening.
I give away a postpartum snack guide, and moms love this too, because it's a lot of like one-handed snacks, like things you can grab and go while you're pumping, while you're feeding your baby, while you're holding your baby, while you're driving, maybe your baby to daycare. Yeah. And so, those freebies at the end, people are really loving those free resources. So yeah, definitely join. And, a lot of what we talk about in that free class too is moms who struggle feeling confident in their bodies, moms who are wanting to get back to their healthiest weight, but not lose their milk supply. Moms who are like, you know what? I want to get back in my jeans and I want to feel good. I want to have energy and like feel like me again. That's really who the class is designed for, because I think a lot of us are like, we feel ashamed to admit that, or we feel guilty. Like, I shouldn't care about how I look. But the truth is, when you give birth and your body's gone through so many weight changes, like pregnancy, like you're going to gain weight. Most of us are gaining 20 to 40 pounds in a short period of time. And then all of a sudden you have this baby. It can be really hard to get dressed and look in the mirror. And there's a lot of body image things that happen. And so sometimes we feel guilty for saying like, I want to fit back in my clothes again. But this class really does that. And we talk about that and address that in a way that doesn't make you feel guilty about that or shameful about it. It's like, here's actually what we need to do to really support our hormones and metabolism and replenish so that your body can get back to its homeostasis. And all of our healthy weights are different, and that's okay.
That is true.
But
you're doing it in a doable way.
Yes.
Like I said, nobody's expecting, and nor should you expect that you're just going to be like making 7-course meals. We have to find something that is doable, that is simple, that's repeatable to some degree, and that does not, like you said, there's more chaos, but how do we... Right. Because that's the thing. It's like there's more chaos and yet we can't keep up. The plates start dropping. The balls start dropping as you're juggling so many tasks and new things. And you're making it really easy for them. I love that you have all of these free guides and everything. So what I'll do, I'll put the link to your webinar in our show notes. That way, if people want to sign up for that masterclass, I think that's going to be a really easy thing. And is it a specific day, or that you have them?
They can register anytime.
Awesome. Yep. Awesome. So it's super easy. It could be in the middle of the night, could be during the day. Doesn't matter. Whenever you're listening.
People watch at 2 a.m. literally. It's great.
Oh my gosh.
They're doing like a middle of the night pump. And I'm like, you do you whenever you can get alone time.
It is what it is. Well, so Brooke, thank you so much for joining us today. I really appreciate it. How can everybody find you?
Yeah, you can connect with me on Instagram at Nutrition for Mamas, or you can listen to my podcast, the Postpartum Shift podcast.
Awesome. Well, thanks so much for joining us, and I hope you can come back sometime.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me.
If you enjoyed this video, you need to tune in to this video next. Then make sure to hit the subscribe button so you get notified as soon as a new episode drops. I'm excited to see you there and dive deeper with you on your skin healing journey.